Well, President Bola Tinubu has ordered an immediate crackdown on violence in Rivers State. In a statement, President Tinubu condemned reports of arson and explosions targeting public buildings that have escalated tensions in the oil-rich state. He directed the police to restore order and secure government offices. Tinubu also called on Governor Sim Fubara and other political leaders to de-escalate the situation. He emphasized the importance of resolving political disputes through the courts.
Well, as the crisis in Rivers State continues, the Nigeria Police Force has pledged to play its role as a neutral body in all forms of political activities. Now, the assurances were given by the spokesperson of the force, ACP Olumuyiwa Adejobi, at a briefing in Lagos. Well, the Nigeria police hierarchy has faced heavy criticisms for withdrawing its personnel and not participating in last Saturday's local government elections. And the violence which has since erupted in the state, including the burning of some local government secretariats after they were unsealed by the police on Monday morning. Adejobi says the force is committed to maintaining law and order, upholding democratic principles, and fostering peace, unity, and progress across the nation.
Well, joining us now are Agbo Madaki, who is a professor of law at Bayes University here in Abuja, and Arise Director of News and Politics Editor, Sambo. Gentlemen, good to see you. Not too good a time for us as a country, as well you see what you have just experienced in Rivers State. Let's start with you, Professor Madaki. The president has spoken finally, and the police is giving another kind of statement saying it will be just in discharge of his duties. First, paint for us a picture leading up to this election in Rivers State and the outcome, and ultimately what we have seen in particular as it relates to the police and its responsibility to protect lives and property. Professor Madaki.
Yeah, thank you very much. Let me start by correcting the introduction you made by describing me as professor of Bayes University. No, I am a professor of law, and then I was formerly the dean of law of Bayes University. I've existed at that university. What played that recently?
I apologize for that. I think
yes, thank you very much. He has described me as a visiting professor of applied law, Durban University of Technology, South Africa. But having said that, the events of the last few days, especially as played out in Rivers State, is completely unacceptable and distasteful and makes a mockery of the practice of democracy in Nigeria. We can no longer describe Nigerian democracy as being nascent, having practiced constitutional democracy for the last 23, 24 years, as the case may be. And if you ask me very strictly, the Nigerian police force completely jettisoned her constitutional responsibility of protecting lives and property in Nigeria, especially in Rivers State, in the course of the just concluded local government election. The Police Act is very, very clear, especially under Section 4 of that Act. It beholds there's a statutory responsibility of the Nigerian police to protect lives and property, to protect the highway, to protect the waterway. And I think they went to sleep deliberately, as the case may be. In any other civilized clime, the proper thing to do, the headsman, the Inspector General of Nigerian Police, ordinarily would and should have tendered his letter of resignation.
Right. Let me bring in Sambo, Arise political editor. Well, President Tinubu has intervened, actually directing his intervention to Fubara and other political stakeholders in Rivers State, saying, go and, clarify your issues or seek, take your disputes to the courts. This intervention, is it a little, too late? And who should take responsibility for the arson attacks that have happened in Rivers State following the local government elections?
Well, just to add that this political brigandage that's just been happening in Rivers State is one that the president seems to be speaking too late about. As a statesman, President Tinubu should know that whatever is happening in Rivers State has the tendency to actually cascade. Why is the case of Rivers State different from all other states? And the president is asking the political actors in Rivers State to go to the courts. When the courts have also made themselves vulnerable, and it looks like their orders are not based out of the content of the law books, but more based on political judgments, then there will be a sort of distrust. And that's what we see, that even the president's desire for these political actors to seek the resolution of this crisis in court may actually be just one that people wouldn't want to take too seriously. We need to actually run a country properly. Is Rivers State not part of Nigeria? It's beginning to look like that's part of the country. It's almost getting into political chaos that may actually have impact, a very wider impact on the democratic credentials of not just President Tinubu, but that of the Governing All Progressives Congress at the federal level. Honestly, most Nigerians are expecting President Tinubu to have spoken before now. Well, he has spoken, and it's good he has said that, but will the president, with all the arms of intelligence that he has, claim that he doesn't know the political actors that are leading the country, the state, into this kind of situation that we find ourselves? Because our democratic credentials are being eroded by what's happening in Rivers State. It's clear that this is political brigandage. We've seen that happening in the past. And the fact that the police could withdraw, just like the professor said, withdraw their services is something that is unheard of under a democratic system. Now, the police, in its statement just this evening, was claiming that it's obeying the democratic principles of governance in the country. But clearly, through its act, there is nowhere that the police can surrender a particular territory of Nigeria to hoodlums, to political thugs, to have a field day. Because just last night, you would have heard Governor Fubara saying that he had heard that there will be 20 persons that will be sent to each local councils to cause problems. And we woke up, the nation woke up to all of this today. Honestly, politically, I think the National Assembly needs to start putting more attention into what's going on, because this could actually claim the president's political credentials and could actually lead to a very huge crisis for the nation if those at the National Assembly continue to allow this to happen, because our democracy is bigger than the APC. Our democracy is bigger than the PDP, including the two political actors, Governor Fubara himself and the FCT Minister Nyesom Wike. Don't derail the country's democracy. If you people were not on the field when people were fighting for this democracy that we all enjoy, then there is no reason why you should take this to this extent. So for the local government officials, both those who have been sworn in, I think it's time for us to actually say that, look, we need to all play by the rule book. And there's nowhere that the rule book permits for what's going on. So irrespective of who's right or who's wrong, the country must reign supreme, and the sovereignty of the country must be asserted in all states of the Federation. So that's what I think that the professor of law too is trying to say, that look, the rule of law must take its roots in all states of the Federation, and Rivers State is not an exemption.
All right, Kesomna, thank you for your insights. I bring back Professor Madaki, and again, let's go for the bull's eye and stop chasing shadows. The president didn't mention any other name apart from Governor Fubara, and he decided to qualify others as political actors. Are we truly serious in getting to the bottom of this, knowing full well that prior to this, there have been names of actors who were pushing for such trouble as we've seen in Rivers State? Plus, the footages we've seen so far, these are not even masked people. Till this moment, Professor Madaki, the police hasn't done anything.
Unfortunately, in Nigeria, very often governors are described not only as the chief executive officers of their state, but as the chief law officer. And I say that is nothing but a historical fallacy. Because if you look at the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, governors are not vested with such powers as to control the security apparatus of Nigeria. It's simply the president. Because under the law, the armed forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria forms part of the executive body. And it is only the president that can give instructions to these bodies. And what has happened in Rivers State, nay, in many other parts of Nigeria, actually justify the clarion call for the establishment of state police, as the case may be. Because you have a situation that even though the governor is the chief executive officer of the state, but you have persons that have access to power at the federal level, and as such, they ride roughshod over the citizens of other states, as the case may be. And Rivers State is a very typical example. If at all it is true, and I find it difficult to believe, that Mr. President is saying going to court, that is totally wrong. Totally wrong, because they build up to this election in Rivers State manifestly very, very clear that it was likely to be violent, because there were persons threatening fire and brimstone. Like you rightly put it, these are not faceless persons, but these are Nigerian citizens. These are persons in authority, as the case may be. The Inspector General of Police made a threat that they may not provide, if I may provide security in the course of that election. If I may ask, on whose side is the Inspector General of Police? He ought to aggregate the interests of Nigerians as his own interest. The Inspector General of Police cannot have an interest that is opposite and different from the interests of Nigeria, as the case may be. If you look at the INEC Act, it actually provides that the chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission can deploy or ask for police in the course of the election. And then the military, under constitutional democracy, can be called in aid of civil authority, regrettably at the local level, especially the law setting up the State Independent Electoral Commission. Even under Section 200, you say that they are independent, but can the chairman of a State Independent Electoral Commission call on the Commissioner of Police to provide security? Can he call the military in aid? No. It's only the president and the INEC chairman that have this power. If you ask me, certain persons with constitutional responsibility have shared this responsibility, allowing lives and property to be lost. And if you look at Chapter 2 of the Nigerian...
Should there be implications for this, especially when you narrow it down to, police action or inaction, as it were?
Obviously, for every action and reaction, there must be somebody responsible for it. The obvious implication for this, if I were President Tinubu, is first and foremost to rejig the security apparatus of Nigeria. The Inspector General of Police should go. In any case, his tenure has expired. It has only just been extended. And there's no justification for it whatsoever. Look at innocent citizens being killed in Rivers State. Look at public properties being burned. And these are not faceless persons. We have seen them on TV with cutlasses, with rockets and everything. I've seen somebody from Rivers State recently threatening that he has the capacity to bring down helicopter in Nigeria. And that person is sitting within the comfort and comfort of his house, and nobody is doing something about it. The question is, who should do something about it? Is the Inspector General of Police? All the 36 or 37 state commissioner of police are under his instruction. He cannot run away from it.
Sambo, who should be taking responsibility? You have arson attacks that ordinarily should not just go like that, as we say in this part. Somebody really should take the fall on this. Who should, and what are the implications of this political impunity that seems to be allowed to have free reign in Nigeria? It's not only in Rivers State, it's beginning to take root.
Well, beginning from the chief security officer of the state, Governor Fubara himself should not claim to be a victim in this instance. When he took the oath of office to be the governor of the state, irrespective of the problems he's having with his political benefactor, he took an oath of office to protect every life and property in that state. So if he had problems or he had intelligence reports that this was going to happen, how did he relate that with the National Security Advisor? And if the federal authorities failed him by providing cover, I mean, the police is not the only institution of law enforcement that we have in the state. That's why we have the DSS, we have the National Security, Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps, and other, including the military. So if indeed he applied for extraordinary measures to be put in place, and these other law enforcement institutions failed, maybe including the National Security Advisor, this is the time for him to tell Nigerians, because he can't just claim to be a victim or he should be claiming to be helpless. It's his state, and he's the governor of that state. When the Rivers State Independent Electoral Commission facility was, the policemen were sent there, he went there. And so if he had the same issues, he should say it. So he cannot just claim that he's not culpable in this. Let him assert his constitutional powers as governor in charge of Rivers State. Let him let Nigerian people know whether indeed he's been deprived of what it needs to actually secure his state. And then, of course, we'll bring the issue to the police. The Inspector General of Police cannot absolve himself of what's going on there, and the National Security Advisors. We are running a country, and we must be seen in the international, within the Committee of Nations and the international community to be running a country and a state. And Rivers State is part of Nigeria. It has not been excised. So the sovereignty of Nigeria must be asserted in Rivers State. And in this instance, the DSS also needs to let us know what happened, that prior intelligence was not provided, including to the governor, as to what was going to happen. We heard the governor saying that the state was having all these problems here and there. We thought that extraordinary support could have been provided. So in all of this, all the security agencies, the institutions are failing Nigerians. They are there, they are constitutional bodies. If there's an intervention or the presidency is not allowing them to do their jobs, they should let us know. Because the presidency is not the only arm of government that runs the country. All these institutions are for the people, and they are supposed to protect the people, and we cannot have hoodlums, political thugs, taking charge of local governments, and it looks like nothing is happening. So why are we paying the multiplicity of security agencies that we have, including the paramilitary agencies? So are we saying that we have a system failure and we are helpless, that political thugs will go to government facilities and reign supreme there? Well, this all beggars, it calls for questions. And that's why I said the National Assembly should be very careful not to play into this because it's a very tough situation.
Those are questions that answers must be given to. But again, before we bring in Professor Madaki, let's quickly go to Rivers State. Earlier, after that very unfortunate arson that we saw, arsonist activities we saw across the Rivers State, Governor Sim Fubara spoke to us.
When the Inspector General of Police directed his men to vacate the premises for easy access of the new elected officers to resume office, and immediately they took advantage of that space to destroy government facility. Who is the loser? The new council that is coming in. The fund that will be applied to other things will now be used to fix this place. Are we not really acting as if we're not responsible? It's an act of irresponsibility. Even if one advises you to go and destroy a government facility, you would think twice.
Well, Professor Madaki, a case of penny-wise, pound foolish. And, well, it comes back to the question Ngozi asked us some now. We cannot run away from that question, and I have to bring that back to you. There must be something done on this. In this case, the president's speech doesn't look like a soothing one so far, and the police hasn't actually shown that it is really neutral in this case. How do we go ahead to fix this? Because as Sumner said, there just might be some ripple effect of what we're seeing in Rivers State if not arrested now.
Prof?
You see, the culture of impunity is reigning supreme in Nigeria because nobody's ever caught and punished. If I may quote my very good friend and brother, J.S. Oktekpa, he said, in a lawless country, it is unlawful to be lawful. That is to say, in a country that the rule of law is not holding supreme, you who attempt to be lawful, you are deemed to be lawless. So long as perpetrators of crime and the profaners of this stained blood are not caught and punished, then the culture of impunity will reign supreme and forever. The truth of the matter is that for all the criminal tendencies exhibited in Rivers State are violations of extant law in Nigeria, including the laws of Rivers State, the criminal law, the criminal code of Rivers State. And these persons are known. But the question, when you talk about Fubara not exercising his constitutional power as the governor of the state, does he have the power of arrest? That power is vested in the Nigerian police. Does he have the apparatus to conduct investigation? That power lies with the police. He can only prosecute after investigation. Then the Ministry of Justice of Rivers State will prosecute. But the power to arrest, strictly speaking, even though a private citizen may arrest, but it's limited. You hand such a person over to the police. So if you ask me,
is it the body language of the presidency that's playing out?
If you ask me, there's no better time than now than what the National Assembly is trying to do, especially the 10th National Assembly that has been doing so well to x-ray the Nigerian Constitution and thoroughly amend it.
Right.
Whether we like it or not, even though there's no perfect federalism anywhere, but we must tailor our own to meet the peculiar challenges and needs of Nigeria. And if you ask me anytime, anywhere, the time has come for us to allow state police. If by 18-something we have native authority police, if by 1918 the native authorities were in charge of prison, are we making progress in Nigeria? That over 200 years down the line, or 100 and something years down the line, then state no longer can have police?
Right. Very quickly, some 30 seconds. Any lessons to learn from the Rivers situation that it was not policed? Is it something, is it a template that we can actually adopt going forward, not over policing elections? Because there was no ballot snatching, at least few, I mean, and all the usual things that you would experience during elections in the case of Rivers State.
Well, very clearly, the job of conducting local government elections falls within the constitutional powers of the state. And the Rivers State government conducted. But how the federal institutions were trying to interfere, from the judiciary to INEC to the police, is what I just don't understand. And that's why I kept saying that we have to be very careful, because if we look at what happened in the First Republic, these were part of the things that happened in the Western region. And so as a result of that, the political actors should be very careful. Let states be allowed to perform their functions, and then let there be guidance. Of course, the professor is actually saying that we should bring in state police. These have always been the fear. If the federal police is being accused of being allegedly used, including the judiciary, just imagine what will happen also. Because the governor, like I said, shouldn't play victim here. Because some of the processes that happen within this period too, he's been accused of not following the processes. Like, for example, those who emerge as APP candidates, I mean, for how long have they joined the party before they became members of the APP and then went on to eventually contest elections and they won? Irrespective of the way people are praising Governor Fubara, he's not totally innocent in this instance. And the National Assembly, if we are to advise the National Assembly, the National Assembly should quickly do a parliamentary inquest into what is happening at Rivers State at the moment.
Okay, we'll have to leave it there.
Should summon
all
state actors to the
We'll have to
Assembly.
leave it there. Somna Sambo, Arise political editor, and of course, our visiting professor of law, Durban University, South Africa, Agbo Madaki. Thank you so much for joining us on Newsnight.